You're watching No Enemies Here.
Welcome to No Enemies Here, War Game News, your first place and only place to get the news. Today we are June 26th, 2021, and here's the easy quick updates. First of all, I'd like to thank a big thank you, and this episode is brought to you by Mike Anthony, my new patron. Thanks, Mike. Helps a lot. Also, Vento Nuevo, Emanuela Santandrea with Orange Swan. And you gotta vote for the CSR, the Charles S. Roberts Award. They're happening right now. Look, we'll only get better as time goes on. So, come on, help us out here. And also, DVG is out with another leader game called SPRUANCE Leader. Now, I just heard of this guy, SPRUANCE, and I think it was Nimitz who said that the single most important decision in the war, in World War II, was made by SPRUANCE during Midway. Anyways, people, have a great show. For the GMT update for the month of June. It's funny, I did a video but I lost it, so I'm gonna have to do it a podcast style. Fred Serval's a guest of Robin Hood. A jest of Robin Hood. What am I saying? Or a guest. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It's hay fever. This is a coin game. It's on the P500, and Fred says there's something a little different about it. Anyways, also from the man who created Sekigahara, Matt Culkin with Charioteer is on the P500. Also Herman Latman's Horror, that is the Plum Island Horror. Go check it out on their website. I did a little ad for them. Come on, go check it out. Also from James M. Day, Panzer North Africa. This is the 4th expansion to the Panzer series game. And the Battle for Normandy. This is the Deluxe edition, and believe it or not, a second printing of Dominant Species Marine, a Chad Jensen game. It just came out, second printing. Yeah! And in the Marvelous Video section, 10 dark, nail-biting Spider-Man animated series episodes explored in detail. And Hardy of ARDWULF'S Lair is here at opening happy hours. That's a new one to me with Brant and Gary. Also Dark City Games and Counterclipping, favorite war game designers, and an unboxing Empires of the Middle Ages. 3 Minute Board Game is doing his top 10 workshop board games, or I should say top 10 games workshop board games. You try it. And the man with the voice and the lights has done a video for DVG SPRUANCE Leader on Kickstarter right now. And also he teaches how to play up front, tips for city fights, 501 in 4, whatever that means.
Hello everyone, this is Michel Sorbet from the Polish YouTube channel Wojennik TV. As usually, here is my weekly roundup of the content published on Wojennik TV during the last 7 days. On Sunday I started with a playthrough of one of my favorite solo games, which is Hostage Negotiator. This game was published by Van Ryder Games a couple years back, and this is a game in which we can incarnate a police negotiator trying to save hostages taken by an abductor. We can choose from several abductors, both from the base game as from the expansions, and during my playthrough I decided to face Edward Quinn, who is a very special abductor because he's not a very mean person, he's not a criminal, but he has a nil son who needs special and very expensive treatment. So he decided to take hostages in order to obtain this treatment. So he's a desperate man who will do absolutely everything in order to save his son. So did I manage to save all the hostages and to help Edward? You can see it watching my playthrough. On Tuesday I opened a new game, and this time I opened the box of King Arthur's Vortex Chess. This is a game for 2 players, a game which was launched and successfully funded on Kickstarter some time ago, designed by a poll by Martin Hood. This is a game in which we will enter the Arthurian mythology and controlling armies, controlling mystical creatures, we will be battling our opponent in order to take control of Camelot. This unboxing was done in English, so if you're interested in taking a look at this game, you can freely do it. On Wednesday, the unboxing in Polish, and this time it was the unboxing of the expansions for Victory World War II by Columbia Games. This game was released at first a long time ago in the late 90s, then it was re-released as a 2nd edition a few years back, and I already both presented the unboxing as well as the review in Polish and in English of the 2nd version of the game. This time I decided to open and to show you how the expansions for this game look, so how the additional blocks and the additional maps which can be used with this game look. Finally, on Friday, my review, and this time I reviewed Freedom by Oddbird Games. This is such a complex, such an interesting and entertaining at the same time title that I definitely wanted to present a review. I have opened the box with this game 2 or 3 years ago. I have presented an unboxing, and from that time I played several times, but I never recorded my review. So finally it is here. I'm happy it is here. Quite an experience, because this is a high entry level game, but very entertaining. If you do invest some time in order to learn it, in order to understand how all the mechanics work, it will give you a lot of joy. So this is the Polish review this week. And that's it. Those are the 4 videos that I published on Wojennik TV during the last 7 days. I wish you a terrific weekend, good gaming, and see you next time.
And the man famously known as Calandale. Enrico Viglino is recovering and is doing Adobe Walls intro, also a pragmatic War 4 and rap. And also he's giving us a pragmatic 4. What am I saying? Pragmatic 4? Hey Fever, a pragmatic war review. Help me. Bare Bones Wargame is taking a look at the many explanations on why Barbarossa failed. And the cop that is Wayne Hansen is doing Stalingrad Solitaire, designed by Gary Graber and published by Canvas Temple Publishing. And John Krantz and Compass Games Live, episode 59, live with the one and only, the unimitable, or imitatable, STUKAJOE. And the wise guy has a poop load of videos. It's Unbelievable Battle for Normandy, the Cornfield, also Normandy 44 versus the Dark Sands, and Ardennes. Enemy Action Ardennes, I should say, parts 2 and 3. And Emanuela Santandrea of Vento Nuevo Games is showing us a video on Orange Swan, the Kickstarter. And Jeff McAleer of the Gaming Gang is back on the video, giving us the information that we need. Check it out. Tell him I say hi. Forget it. I'll say hi. And James Isert of Castle Archon is doing hardbacks of Harn update. This is their RPG. Legendary Tactics is going crazy on videos. DEFCON Diplomacy. Also, Willy Brandt, Twilight Struggle Strategy, and how to play Onirim, and 10 challenges of solo games, and more. World War II Solitaire Board Game Channel has 4 videos out on D-Day Dice and their expansion, and also Atlantic Wolves What's in the Box unboxing. Rough Swordsman Wargamer takes a look at, actually he's unboxing Storm Above the Reich. This is a Jeremy White game published by GMT. Also, he's unboxing Shadows of Brimstone, Swamps of Death. It's the core set. And he continues with Atlantic Chase, another Jeremy White game. This is Tutorial 3, Part 2. And Jan Heinemann of Let's Play History is checking out Strategic Command, World War II War in Europe, and also Lynchburg. And what's happening on the big board? Kevin checks out Great Campaigns of the American Civil War, Hood Strikes North Scenario Overview. Marco Omnigamer checks out Company of Heroes, the board game review. Back to the Table checks out their favorite game series in tile laying games. And BLASTPOP gives us a after hour campaign, or AAR, or after campaign report of The Hunters, a game designed by Gregory M. the Animal Smith. And the strong man of war games, Rob Oren, in his War and Pieces, he checks out The Last 100 Yards, Airborne over Europe, a Mike Denson game. Combat Board Games is unboxing Raid on Iran, a 2019 Pocket Box Edition by Steve Jackson Games. And STUKAJOE does a preview video of Vento Nuevo's Orange Swan on Kickstarter. Liz from Beyond Solitaire with Podcast 45 is interviewing Jess Cassidy on game development. This time I'm gonna get it right with the Discriminating Gamer. Cody of the Discriminating Gamer takes a look at Dan Verson's, or DVG's, Field Commander Napoleon. And Counterproductive Games was on a tear for 2 weeks on Command & Color's Samurai Battles from GMT. ARDWULF'S LAIR showing opening happy hours with Brant and Gary. Also counterclipping favorite war game designers. This is a live stream and an unboxing. Empires of the Middle Ages. Artie. And on Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, he checks out Hood Strikes North, scenario number 6. Also, Armchair Dragoon's Digital Convention. Robert Carroll of KilRoyWasHere checks out the 2020 Charles S. Robert Awards. I think this is an ad. Also, Wing Leaders, Victories and Expansions by GMT. Again, Origins Wing Leaders, 1936 to 1942, and Unbagging and Blitz from Wing Leader, 1939 to 1942, and Unbagging. Also, Victories from Wing Leaders, 2nd edition update kit. And Mo of Mo's Game Table checks out Cradle of Civilization, a preview of a Compass Games. Also, Conflict, High Something. Also, American Dragoons, Digital Convention, End of Show Happy Hour, and an interview with Lock and Load's David Heath. The war game philosopher Jason Cruz of Hexes and Soldiers does his Napoleonish, that's what I said, that's what he wrote. Weirdo. Hex to Hex checks out the Battle of Chickamauga, Baron Victory, a multi-man publishing Civil War Brigade series. And let's get slap happy with the Chief of Bonding with Board Games, where he sings you a song. You never win a fight with a naked guy. That's what I said. Steve Dolges unbags a MMPOCS Burma game. And the Grognard of 2020, voted by you, of No Enemies Here, Jim Ozarski on the Battle of Benevento for Fields of Glory 2. Also, the Battle of Lobbyists, or Lobosits. Lobosits, oh my God, help me. Also, the Battle of Lobosits for the Black Powder 2. And Derion Attack for La Salle, and the Cannonball Run for Oh What a Tanker.
Hello all, today Kilroy goes off the shelf because I'm bored. So bored I have Monopoly on my table. Why? Monopoly's a board game. It's got a board. It's a board game. Clue. It's a board game. See the board? So we have war games that are board games. If I recall correctly, I think Tactics 2 was a mounted board game. Here's an old Chancellorville from Avalon Hill. It's a board game. So we have these board games. Why do we have paper maps in our war games? In fact, we probably have more paper maps in our war games than we have mounted maps. That wasn't always the way. I mean, Avalon Hill had Chancellorville. There's a board game. My first board game I bought, or first war game I bought, Panzer Leader, has a mounted map. Squad Leader, mounted board. War and Peace, mounted board. Kingmaker, well, it's not mounted, but it is a thicker board. It's kind of a board game. It's this one-piece fold-out that Avalon Hill got into, where you could fold it all together and it could fit into one of their classic bookcase games. But it's not paper. It's a little bit thicker, but it's a one-piece. Here's a mounted map board. That's an entire map, and that is Hitler's War. Here we go. It's mounted board. Then you got Air Force here, another one of my games. Now this had the Kingmaker type cardboard, a little thicker, but not necessarily mounted, but thicker than paper. Unfortunately, this is the only piece that still remained attached. The rest of my boards, notice I called them boards, all came unattached. So, we used to have a lot of mounted boards back in the day, at least Avalon Hill did. Now, not all their games were mounted boards. Or mounted maps. Here is Stonewall in the Valley, part of the great campaigns of American Civil War. And it's a paper map, as you can see here. And, the other big producer in the 70s, SPI, well, they did paper maps. I don't know if they had any mounted maps. I'm sure you guys will tell me that. But my experience with SPI was mostly, if not exclusively, paper. And they did paper maps. Now, why the difference? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you might have a difference. I mean, paper maps don't necessarily cost as much as a mounted map board, especially probably in the manufacturer, but also, you know, once you put it together for shipping purposes. I mean, that's a consideration nowadays. Paper maps were also a little bit more flexible in, you know, you could put them under plexiglass. Here's some plexiglass here and hold them down. Whereas some of these mounted maps, as you saw for the Air Force, it kind of breaks up, doesn't lay flat, warps. Whereas paper maps, you can, you know, there's folds in it, but if you put it under plexiglass, they lay pretty flat. You can write on the plexiglass. You can put your combat odds or draw arrows of where your attacks are. So there's a little bit more flexibility there. Plus, you know, if you do one of the monster games, like GDW did one of the first monster games, there's a lot of maps, and having a ton of mounted maps or trying to put those together could be a mess. And you especially can't put plexiglass over those, or you could, but that could be a mess as well. So, or very cumbersome. So, you know, the multi-map type situations become a problem if you're doing mounted maps. And so you had Avalon Hill doing mounted maps, and you had, or, you know, mostly mounted maps, I guess, at one point, then shifting over. And then you had SPI doing mostly paper maps, if not exclusively paper maps. So, you know, the battle began back at that time. Nowadays, well, you know, we still have a lot of paper maps nowadays. Here is a Clash of Arms game, beautiful map, Rick Barber map. You know, there's something to be said about a really nice paper map. I mean, it looks kind of like what a map you would expect a general to lay out and figure out their battle plans on. But here is a beautiful map under plexiglass, and as I said, you know, you can mark on the plexiglass or keep the map flat in that regards. You know, games that have a lot of that have multiple maps, like the Great Battles of History or Men of Iron, or games that have multiple maps that are, you know, a 2 or 3 or 4 map, or your monster games. Well, you know, they probably need to use paper. I mean, that's probably the best way to do that, to keep it economical. You know, the Great Battles of History, here's GMT, Great Battles of History Samurai. Here's a map that you can, you know, do two-sided. So, you know, if you have 4 battles in a game, you only need 2 maps. If you have 5 battles, you know, or 6 battles, you only need 3 maps. You know, you guys can do the math, right? Because you can do these two-sided, and you can do it on paper, and you can put it, you know, under plexiglass if you want, and handle it that way. Sometimes you can put more than one map on one side and divide it up that way. GMT does some mounted maps. I mean, one of my first experiences with GMT on what their so-called mounted maps was dealing with, you know, For the People. This was the map that comes along with the game, and For the People, it's a little bit thicker paper than usual. And then they came out with kind of a mounted map. It's really not mounted, it's just thicker, you know, cardboard, but it's a little bit better map than what you get in the game. And they kind of started doing that. And they actually do, you know, actually full-blown mounted maps now. You have, like, here's Pax Romana, and this is one of those fold-out, one-piece fold-outs, but it's a fully, as you can see there, mounted map. Other manufacturers, you know, Worthington Games, most of their games, if I believe correctly or understand correctly, I think are mounted maps. I don't have all their games, but I have several of their games, but they do quite a few mounted maps in their games. Here's 1944 Battle of the Bulge. Compass Games does a fair amount of mounted maps. Here's a Pragmatic War. That is a mounted map here, as you can see. But Compass Games is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, they do a lot of multi-map games, so those are going to be paper and probably done in the United States. I think their mounted maps tend to be like 1 maps or a little bit smaller that they can fit in a box, and I think those are done in China. Multi-Man Publishing, you know, which does the SES series and has a lot of the gamer games and has OCS. Well, those tend to be bigger maps, and I don't think they do any mounted, not that I know of. Again, you guys can let me know in the comments. But here's Iron Curtain, part of the SES series. I mean, this is a paper map, and that's what you're going to get from them. Lock and Load, I mean, they do the tactical, Lock and Load Tactical and World at War. Here's a World at War 85 map. You know, it's not paper, but it's also not you know, mounted. It's just a little bit thicker. It's not as thick as that For the People map that we looked at earlier. So there's lock and load. So, I mean, you get a variety. I would say the vast majority of maps are probably going to be, or vast majority of war games are going to be paper maps. You know, DVG does mounted maps, but, you know, their games are, a lot of times are mainly card-based. And so the map is not as much of a, it's more of a marker or chart for the game, as opposed to being a full-blown kind of battle map or a hex map in most cases. You know, decision games, you know, which is kind of the successor to a lot of SPI games, well, you know, they're going to use paper. I mean, especially in their magazine games. Here's a magazine game, World at War, but they also have Strategy and Tactics. And Modern War, well, they're going to use paper, of course, because they're throwing it in a magazine, and they're not going to ship a magazine with a mounted map. Also, they're like their folio games, you know, they're going to put, you know, a paper map in their folio games. So, you know, there's pros and cons to mounted maps or mounted board games versus paper maps. What do you guys like? Which side are you on? Do you like the mounted maps and the board games because it is a board game and you want that quality, you want that feel, you want that to be a game that you pull out of a box and have all the tactile feel of a mounted map and the quality that goes along with that? Or do you prefer, you know, paper maps and, you know, putting plexiglass on it? You know, any, you know, self-respecting wargamer is going to have plenty of plexiglass and some tweezers and a clipper in the background. You know, that's what you need, and so you need to have paper maps. Which side do you guys land on? Are you board or are you paper? Here's a DVD bonus feature. This is what it looks like after one of my filmings. I tell you what, I'm not going to be bored cleaning that mess up.
Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to Centurion's Review, the punk rock band of war game review institutions. First game we reviewed on our website is GDW, The Battle of Prague. It's one of their 120 games, meaning that it was meant to be able to be played within 2 hours. It's a 7 years war game. It's a pretty good game, kind of plays like a mini game, but it's fun to play, and I think 7 years war aficionados will really like it. And then we did War Game Chat number 14 on YouTube. In this one, Len talked about AirCon, which is a war game convention that occurs in Milwaukee, Wisconsin once a year, where they play all sorts of aviation-related war games. And also on YouTube, we did a first look at GDW's The Battle of the Alma. It's essentially another 120 game that's about the Crimean War, the first battle of the Crimean War. And last we did a first look at Avalon Hill's Source of the Nile. In this game, you organize expeditions and explore Africa. There's hostile animals, diseases, natural disasters, and hostile natives that you have to deal with. It's a really cool game. Thanks for watching, and have a good evening.
The Professor Riccardo Mazzini of the Italian Connection, una sera con Enrico Acerbi, a game designer. Also, Warlog. Benvenuti su Shipionet. Shipionet. That's one weird. These Italians. Get out of here. And the man who goes by the name of Jeff is doing videos on Storm Above the Reich. The whole shebang. The Italian Connection of Mauro Faina has videos on Napoleon's Last Gamble episode 7. Also is live with the Giannizzero Nero. And Julian Fairfax, or Julius Fairfax, gives us a small video. Well, it's in Spanish, so I didn't understand. But here it is! And Tony of Tony's Board Life continues his magnum opus, Longstreet Attacks, The Roundtops. And the OG, the original Grognard, is live with Lock and Load Tacticals. Heroes of the NAM, I should say, is not live, but this is a tactical digital gameplay. The artist that is Matt White reviews Saratoga 1777, a game designed by Grant Wiley, published by Worthington Games. HEXES has a pre-order video of the Great War Commander, the game of tactical combat in World War I. And the gentlemen of the Player's Aid are unboxing Zero Leader from DVG, also reviewing Supply Lines, the Southern Strategy from HOLLANDSPIELE, and unboxing 8th and 20th Air Force from Fortress Games. And the GIMPY Gamer does Boot Camp number 16, Button and Unbutton of Point Blank, a Sean Drulinger game. Also, he checks out Age of Dogfights World War II by Predrag Lazovic. This is a preview. And Company of Heroes Going Big Part. And Companies of Heroes Going Big Part 2. Another week, another show. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And please think about being a patron to No Enemies Here War Game News. So please don't forget the Charles S. Robert Awards. And also, so go vote in big numbers. Let's make this a success. And Karen Terezi had an accident. I don't know if he wants me saying this, but he had a car accident. He's a bit banged up. Anyways, I wish him well. Spoke to him this morning. He says he's good. When he says he's good, he ain't. Okay. Have a great weekend.